All right. It says we're live. It's 5:03 p.m. Central Time here on this April 27th, 2020. Apparently, the notifications did not go out. I tried to bump around the algorithms due to the topic. And I strongly believe that's why the video that I put out, which was a nightmare making because I'm no expert when it comes to this stuff. A new app that I used, it was terrible. But this video, yeah, it's showing it only got 113 views. That on this channel is low. Okay, it's climbing. Okay, so far, Sister Bonnie's in the house. Sister Diane Blue's in the house. Brother AB's in the house. Country Boy Logan's in the house. Sister Renee Vester jumping in the house. I'm going to wait till more of you all jump in. And then once again, I'll introduce you to Brother Jeff Arrington. If y'all don't know, we have a lot of history. When I was 11 years old, moved up to Johnson City, Tennessee. And I met the Arrington family when I was, say, about 12, and then moved away when I was almost 17 years old. But we've been in contact, and
always.
I think I spent more time at your all's house than I spent at my own house.
I don't know if it was at the house or if it was down on the lake fishing, JD, but we had some
I miss the lake. I miss the trails and the camping, etc. My beautiful daughter, Haven Lee Welsh, is in the house. Hey, baby girl.
Good to see you, Haven.
Daddy loves you more than life itself. Okay, we got, once again, I'll start from the top. Sister Bonnie is in the house. Diane Blue's in. Sister Diane's in the house. Brother AB just got a notification. That's good. Okay, I got one. Country Boy Logan in the house up there in Maine. Sister Renee Vester's in the house. Great to see you. Diane Blue. Lisa Pritchard's in the house. Hi. Beautiful Haven Lee Welsh in the house. My daughter, brother Michael Gale in the house. What's up, brother? Little Smiley, Biblical Ways News in the house. Hey, brother. Our little Smiley's birthday was yesterday, so he's officially now 18 years old. He's an adult living in Denmark, where over the horizon is going to be the forced vaccinations. Scott Russian's in the house. Sorry, I said Russian. Sister Bonnie, Sister Rhonda R's in the house. It's showing 14 people. Randy's in the house. Deer Man in the house. How's your deer? The Deer Man. Happy late birthday to little Smiley. Yes. Once again, I apologize about that, Scott. Well, anyways, I'm going to hand the floor over to you, Jeff. We got 15 in the house. I'm blessed that everybody who's in the house. I want to tell you thank you. And I know as time goes on, people will see that we're on, and there'll be more people joining in. But go ahead and introduce yourself again for the new subscribers, brothers and sisters in Christ that didn't see you on any of the last live streams I did with you previously.
Absolutely. So, folks, my name's Jeff Arrington. I'm with the Scott County VA Gun Owners. That's VA for Virginia. Scott County, Virginia Gun Owners Group, coming out to you from Scott County, Virginia, in the community of Hiltons, Virginia, is where we broadcast from. We do have a channel. You can look us up on YouTube. JD, I hope you don't care to plug here a little bit, but
no, plug. Yeah, go ahead, plug everything.
Scott County VA Gun Owners. You can look us up. So we are a group of citizens just like you that essentially got tired of sitting back and seeing our freedoms slowly trickled away from us. So we're a group of just individual citizens. It's not really a group. I mean, I mean, when I be careful using that term because I don't want people to think it's like a, you know, you got to apply or there's something limited. No, but we are citizens. We're just a bunch of people that got fed up, and now we are all basically spending our own volunteer time to try to push anything and everything around the Second Amendment, particularly in Virginia, our focus is primarily around Scott County and getting the news and organizational information out to folks in Scott County. But we certainly have subscribers from all across the Republic. And I tell people all the time, whether you're sitting on the front lines of this battle in Virginia or New York or California or West Virginia or wherever else it may be, you may be sitting somewhere where you're completely fine. And I will tell you that is probably your Achilles heel, because that was me several months ago. I was sitting here thinking it'll never happen in Virginia, no big deal. I'm talking before it even became out, right? And all of a sudden it was like, boom, we switched. We had a Democratic dominance in Richmond, and the next thing you know, we're sitting here basically battling for our rights. So don't get complacent. It can happen to you. We're going to make sure it stops right here in Virginia so it doesn't. But there's something that there's a role that everybody can play, whether you're in Virginia or not, to make sure that we win this fight. So glad to be on the show tonight, JD. I'm glad that you have us on. Privileged to be here, man.
No, it's a privilege to have you, brother. And you know, like you said, just you know, a few months back, you know, now it's time for people to really wake up. And, you know, when did you ever believe that, you know, your Second Amendment rights in Virginia were going to be, I mean, attacked, let alone it's extremely, hold on real quick, you know, unconstitutional. But no one ever thought that no one ever thought that we'd be in the situation we're in right now. You know, our Constitution is being trampled on by these governors, these totalitarian dictator governors, you know, that are coming up with all these new so-called laws or whatever, taking advantage of the system. And right here says, first Virginia, then your state. Wake up. Diane Blue, that is so true. And that's exactly what, you know, Brother Jeff's talking about. And real quick, Sister Sam, locked and loaded 100%, popping in to say hello. Thank you for stopping in. I'm sure you're very busy, but that means the world to us here on Locked and Loaded. You're part of the family as well. Going back to this, first Virginia, then your state. Wake up. And you know, it's amazing. It just
and you said, you know, when will we ever think it, JD? I still sit here and I'm dumbfounded thinking about it. You know, y'all can ask JD. I mean, I've been a pretty straight line walker most of my life. I'm not going to say I don't have my you know, mischief I got into as a youngster, but I mean, the worst I've ever had is a speeding ticket. You know, like a lot of folks, I suppose. You know, and here I found myself a couple of months ago, just by the swing of a couple of votes. You know, I'm not going to be a felon, and so if that had went elsewhere, you know, the same person that's always just tried to do his best, always worked hard, try to provide for his family and make the best life I can make, you know, continuing down that exact same path, unless I decided to go out and get rid of things that I've legally purchased or have been legally given to me or are heirlooms in my family, right. I'm all of a sudden going to be a felon. And I mean, there was going to be no way around it the way it was written. Now, for y'all who know the HB 961 in Virginia, that particular one was tabled. People, by the way, I'm hearing people say that that's been killed. I want to be really, really clear. This is an important distinction for folks. If you talk about people, if it was killed, that means it would not be brought back up again. Not that exact same bill. It was tabled for a year, which means next year it will be back. 100%. It will be back. Even if it was killed, they would rewrite it probably and bring it back. But I want to be clear. It's an important distinction to make, because I don't want people to think that, you know, this is gone. I mean, that's still going to be a battlefront. And they pushed a lot of other crap still on through. We can elaborate on that later, but it's just amazing. It's still hard to believe. It's still really honestly hard to believe.
Well, if you can go back and explain what you mean by you could have been a felon overnight, along with just about, would you say 60% of the population of Virginia, you know, gun owners?
I'd say probably even more. Now, you know, it's funny because the statistics, they always try to pull statistics, and I think those statistics are always greatly, you know, lower than what they really, I don't know what the right word is. It's just, they're not accurate because, you know, there's no gun registry, right? You know, technically speaking, there is no, people talk, well, there's a sense that you can trace a gun, right? But that's the same as a registry. Now, some certainly theorize that the, you know, the ATF have a black book registry, you know, whether they do or not, it wouldn't surprise me. I'll throw that out there. But at the end of the day, so how we almost became a felon, you you know, there was a so-called HB 961 in the General Assembly in Virginia that was essentially an assault weapons ban. And it was an outright ban, even worse than even the one that Clinton pushed through in 1994 at the federal level that expired 10 years later. The ban was going to essentially make it, you know, cancel all sales of all what they call assault rifles, by the way. I'm going to change my screen. Every time I use that term, I've got an old muzzle loader here on the wall, and I always point up and I say, guys, that right there is the original assault weapon, right? So there's no such thing. I mean, an assault weapon, if I assault you with this pen, that's an assault weapon. If I assault you with a BB gun, that's an assault weapon. So I mean, that's not the definition. They made up a definition. It was going after, you know, your AR, your armor light rifles. They were calling them assault weapons, and essentially it was going to ban the future sale of those. The original way it was written, it was actually going to make you have to turn them in or sell them or take them out of state. Before the law went into effect. It also had an inclusion that was an amendment that came later around magazine capacity. It initially started, I believe, at a size anything more than like 10 rounds.
Then it went down to 4, wasn't it?
Well, it got bumped up. I think the last number I recall, and it may be, I may be wrong on this. Take this with a grain of salt. The last number I heard, I think they had it written for either 12 or 14 rounds. They did increase it. But again, if for anybody that has an armor light rifle, you know, your common AR, the most common rifle in America today is certainly the armor light AR rifle. And it, you know, one of the most common magazines for that is a 30-round magazine. They have 30.
Right. That's your standard.
Yeah. And so basically, if you had possession of the firearm, it would make you a felony. The way it was originally written, even if you had possession of the magazine, it was going to make you a felon. They did rewrite it toward the end that they even had a grandfather clause that said they were going to allow people to keep their firearms. They were allowed to, you know, if you had one that was grandfathered, but the grandfathered in was only to the individual. So in other words, upon my death, those firearms would have to be destroyed or taken out of state. I couldn't give them to my kids. The federal firearm ban of 1994, the grandfathered in was for the firearm. So the firearm was legal in the same way, if people are familiar with the National Firearms Act of 1932, that was the last amended in 1986. And in 1986, they grandfathered fully automatic firearms. You can still get a fully automatic firearm. That's another misconception. It's perfectly legal to get a fully automatic firearm as long as it was manufactured before 1986. Again, this particular one was going to make that. It was just for the individual, and it was going to make you felons if you just lived your life like you have always been living it up to this point in time. You were going to become a felon unless you went out of your way to get rid of property that belonged to you that you legally purchased and got rid of it. You were going to become a felon.
Right. And what was the one law too they were trying to pass? Like when you said heirloom, you know, like if you had a rifle that was from your dad that was given to you and you wanted to pass it down to your son, remember the law they were trying to pass and all that garbage, basically saying that you could not hand down a weapon to your child or family member?
Yeah, and I don't remember the number on that one, but I mean, so HB 961 was part of that, but there's actually another one that I'm trying to remember if it passed or not. And JD, I apologize, I should have been better prepared, but there was another.
No.
The way it was written was basically that it dealt with transferring firearms, right? And I think it actually is one of the ones that passed. And it's going to be interesting to see how it's interpreted, because the way that it's written, you know, let me just say this too. And I was as guilty of this as anything. You know, a lot of your viewers probably know this, but, you know, in my younger years, I always thought laws were black and white. It was like, you know, it's clearly delineated what's right and what's wrong and what's a violation, what's not. It's not that at all. Laws are incredibly gray, right? And they're done that for a reason, because there's supposed to be some reasonable interpretation. But the way that one of these laws that did pass, I can't remember which one it is, but it deals with transferring of firearms. And the way that it's written, it could potentially be mistaken to say that, you know, if I even hand a firearm to somebody, that could be considered a transfer of a firearm. And that could be potentially considered a crime. There was another one that was very similar, and it did get shot down. And again, I don't remember the exact details of each one. You know, as it got closer to all these, our message, you know, we were focusing and following each bill so hard. And to be completely honest with you, that took so many resources and so much time that it was easier just to concert our effort and basically say, fight any bill that deals with anything bad about firearms. There were a handful that were good, but in majority, they just kind of got all lumped together. So I wish I had the specifics, but does that help?
No, that's awesome. And like you said, you know, and this is stuff that's coming over the horizon. But, you know, what's a message that you want to give to the people of, you know, okay, we're in this shelter in place, this pandemic, etc. But let's just say that they do have the elections or whatever. When we were talking on the phone, you said, and it happens. That's how we lost the House. Just say you all have an election, and then you elect a Republican or even a Democratic. I hate to say, but governor that promotes and backs up the Second Amendment. That tell people that, you know, the message that you were telling me on the phone, not to get complacent, and the reason why.
Yeah, there's a couple of things out of this, and it's a couple of points that aren't so obvious, but when you think about it, they become quite clear. You know, first off, I want to say this. This sounds really crazy. This is going to sound nuts, but I'm glad that Northam and the Democrats did what they did in Virginia, and I'm going to tell you why. That sounds crazy, but it was necessary because it woke everybody up. Okay?
Exactly. Solid point. I love that.
If they had continued down the path that they've been doing for the past 20 or 30 years, keep in mind our firearms have been slow. Our rights have been slowly getting eroded, so slow and so tiny that it was, you know, the people had the capacity and the appetite to be comfortable with it. Right. They finally took a big step, and it was like, oh no, you didn't. Right. And so I, you know, in a strange, twisted kind of way, I thank God that they did that. And I thank God that my butt got kicked to say, wake up and do something. Right. And so the message is, I will tell everybody, I really believe our greatest enemy is not DC. It's not the governor. It's not the Democrats sitting there. It's not even the crazy lefties. You know, it is our own complacency, our own comfortable. When we sit back and we go, okay, well, so let me give you the perfect example. Here's a perfect example. Two good examples. Let me start with maybe one that was a little bit more long-term. It's easy to sit back and go, well, that's California, man. You know, those California commies or those New York crazies or the New Jersey crazies, it happened there. It won't happen here. That's number one, right? That's an easy thing to get complacent about, and that's your worst enemy. Right? Really, what should we have been doing all along? We should have been trying to support our brothers and sisters in California, New York, New Jersey, Chicago, saying, what are we standing back for? Yeah, I'm in Virginia. I don't care. California should be respecting their rights there, just the same Virginia, and my rights are respected in Virginia. So that's complacency number one. A number two example, a more recent example. I don't use a bump stock. It's not that big of a deal. I'm never going to have a bump stock. And I was one of those people, guys. I don't have a big desire for a bump stock. And that was, by the way, that was a Trump thing. So just to be clear, I support Trump. They run 100%. I do, but I don't agree with everything. That was one of the ones. I think he was trying to show that he's willing to play the middle ground. And I will say the bump stock, I feel like, was a good one, because that was one that a lot of people didn't need. But it just goes to show it's case in point evidence that when you give the lefty crazies a gnat's hair, they're going to take a million miles, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so the message is, one, don't get complacent. Number two, with the pandemic, JD, since you mentioned it just real quickly, the important thing to think about, and I would encourage everybody to do this no matter where you're at, whether you're in Virginia, New York, Virginia, West Virginia, New York, or whatever state, Texas, whatever, Oklahoma, whatever. You know, we've talked about making sure that you're registered to vote, right? Our number one chance to break this right now in a peaceful way, I want the peaceful way, is do it at the ballots, right? When we get our new elected servants, by the way, they're not leaders. They don't lead. I mean, they can be leaders, but at the end of the day, what they are is they are elected servants
to work for us.
They work for us. When we get them in there, we want to make sure that they are held accountable, and that they need to know that if they vote for anything that violates our rights, particularly the Second Amendment, but as well as any other rights, they are essentially committing political suicide, right? We will not vote them back in if they do anything that violates any of our rights, period, point blank, and that let them know that you will communicate to make sure others know that. So you do that, one, by voting. You've got to vote, right? You can only vote if you're registered to vote. So be sure that you're registered to vote. If you're not, get registered to vote. Help others get registered to vote. And thirdly, we're to the pandemic. The pandemic is going to I already know a lot of folks say over the age of 65 because that's one of the one of the age groups that's heavily impacted by this virus. A lot of those folks have said, even if tomorrow they ended the lockdown, right? Tomorrow we can go wherever we want and stay as long as we want, the biggest crowds we want. There's a lot of folks I already know they're saying, listen, even when that happens, I'm going to stay in because I want to watch my health. And there's nothing wrong with that. Let me be first to say, I don't blame them. If you know anybody in that situation, go ahead and start talking to them to see and get them registered and signed up to do vote by mail. Right now, I don't agree with vote by mail. It's one of the things the Democrats push, and it is statistically proven to be the most commonly used voting method to do fraud. So I don't like it. But if it's there, let's make sure that we take advantage of it as well. And if folks are going to stay home, which, by the way, most of your demographics, folks over 65, vote Republican and conservative. So, be sure to talk to them and get them signed up to do voting by mail and register. If they're not registered, get them registered. Vote's going to be incredibly important come November. We've got a huge election coming up. So we got to win this not only at the federal level, at every single state level within your state, everywhere.
With this pandemic, it just happens to, perfect timing. And I go with the channel because I know this is going to be shared on your channel as well. So fear tactics or whatever, fear porn. A lot of people say that this channel is about that. No, it's exposing the global elites, the new world order, the vaccine pushers, the forced vaccinations, nanotechnology, 5G, not 5G that's going to kill you, but 5G that more of a police state, a surveillance state, kind of like after 9/11 with the Patriot Act, etc. But, this election that's coming up is by far, I believe, one of the most important elections we've ever had in our history. And look where we're at. We got governors telling people they can't mow their yard in Michigan. You're not allowed to mow your front yard in Michigan. Yeah. Just crazy, off the wall, asinine stuff. And so don't get complacent when it comes to your Second Amendment. I mean, if they can tell you cannot step outside of your house and fire up a lawnmower, you think they're going to abide by the Constitution?
Well, if I can make a few points about that. First off, real quick, Jenny, there's a comment on here I want to just address.
Yeah, let me know anytime.
Someone said Virginia is very hateful toward Northerners, very prejudiced. It's really bad. So I want to address that just real quick because what I would say there is there's jerks everywhere. Every state has jerks. So Tim, you're exactly right. I apologize for whatever you've ran into, but what I would say to you is, first off, I'm not sure who in Virginia's a big state, right?
I've been there. I've been there. I haven't run into anybody that was rude, but you know what? There's racist people. There's rude people everywhere. So, right. But anyways, go ahead, brother.
Well, and what I was going to say is this is a good point because I don't want to criticize Tim here because I'm sure he's had that experience. What I would encourage Tim to do is I would say this is a time when, first off, understand there's jerks everywhere, like you said, right? It's my guess is he may have ran into someone from like Richmond or somewhere up north because up north they're more Yankee. I'm just going to be honest.
Yankee, yeah.
We had this whole conversation about, North versus the South, whatever. Come down and visit me, Tim, if you'd like to. Come down and see me in Scott County. I can show you a lot of great folks. But the key point I want to say is it's going to be easy to separate ourselves. And this pandemic's doing that too, by the way. You've already seen this pandemic picking people against each other. Some people are saying it was created. Some people say it's natural. Some people say we're overreacting. Some people are saying we're underreacted. What we've got to understand is, guys, they're going to continue to try their best to separate us. And that's all of us. I don't care on the little things that we agree on. I don't care if COVID-19 was manufactured in a lab or if it's real. I know there are jerks in Virginia. There's jerks in Tennessee. There's jerks in Michigan. There's jerks everywhere. We've got to look at that and say, those are the petty differences that are going to separate us. We've got to stand united and put aside our differences and focus on our common causes that are preserving the rights for everybody. And like you said about mowing the yard, I tell people, like with this pandemic, they can do this with a freedom, liberty ring to it. And what I mean by that is I think it's a great thing when our elected servants make recommendations. If Governor Northam in Virginia came out and said, we really recommend there's no more than 10 people in a restaurant, and we really recommend that you stay at home, and we really recommend that we shut down these parks and stuff and blah, blah. That's recommendations. That's fine. When they come out and say, we're going to shut down your business because there can't be more than 10 people. We're going to shut down, by the way, we're going to talk about this in a minute too, Jenny. We're going to shut down gun shops because that's non-essential, right? We're gonna take away your firearms because they scare us and we don't understand them, but we're taking them away. Guys, tyranny. That is textbook tyranny. Go read John Knox and his Covenantal Politics. That's one of the most influential people for our founding fathers in 1776. And John Knox believed in a 4-tower model of covenantal politics. And whenever your politicians, whenever your elected representatives say to you things that are against God's will, that is textbook tyranny. Textbook.
Absolutely. You are absolutely correct. 100%. And, you know, usually I don't address this kind of thing, but I want to just talk about the sheer hypocrisy in this when it comes to Tim. It says, just hear me out for a second. Hey, ask him why they hate Northerners and then prejudiced bastards. Well, in a sense, if you call somebody a prejudiced bastard, you're being somewhat prejudiced yourself. It's kind of you know, hypocritical and even bully my son. I feel bad for your son, you know, but, you know, I can go walk down the streets of Chicago, even though I have just about this much white in me. I'm 3/4 Native American, Cherokee, Algonquin, and Sioux, and I have 1/4 Welsh Irish. I can walk down the streets of Chicago and be the only white-looking person and be called all kinds of names. I can go to Dearborn, Michigan, where it's full. It's you know, they have no-go zones where police officers don't even go because of the Muslim. It's a huge place full of Muslims, and they have radical Muslims. That's a place that I can't go walk down the street without possibly getting my freaking head chopped off. So you can't just narrow it down to one place. Right. You've got in Minnesota. Oh my gosh, just left my mind there for a sec.
Minneapolis, Twin Cities.
Yes, Minneapolis, Minnesota. When I drove through there, it was just like the movie Black Hawk Down because of all the when it came to the man, it just threw me for a left field right here. But help me out here. Black Hawk Down.
You thinking like the slums or the rough areas?
No, I'm thinking of the refugees where they came from in Africa. We had that war in Somalia, the Somalian refugees. They're everywhere in Minneapolis, Minnesota, everywhere. And when I drove through there, I got all kinds of dirty, nasty looks, like they wanted to rip my head off. But Southwest Virginia, I need to know if hope they lose all their damn guns in Virginia. All right, that's what I knew what I was getting at. I just got to get rid of it.
I see Tim. He says he's in Galax, so that's up the road. So Tim, I'll just say, man, you've ran into the bad group, right? I mean, just because if I go to Chicago, I mean, I've been to Chicago, and when I was in Chicago, there was a few people I met that were rude. Does that mean all that Chicago's rude? No. I mean,
I'm saying.
Europe, I ran into some rude people. Does that mean that all Europe's rude? No. But that's what, you know what? If people want to divide us, they would love for me to say that. They would love for me to do that. So, Tim, seriously, man, come check us out on our channel. I have call-in shows. Call in sometime. Come down. We'll shoot, man. I mean, have you run into jerks? I'm sure you have. I've run into jerks in Virginia. I mean, golly. I mean, you know, I came from Tennessee, and we used to make the joke that people in Virginia don't know how to drive. Well, now I'm a Virginian, but, you know, I kind of agree, and sometimes Tennesseans don't know how to drive. So, you know, there's idiots everywhere. That's what I would say. There's idiots everywhere.
Well, yeah, and you know there are jerks everywhere, and guess what? There's a jerk in Wisconsin, and but you know what? You're more forgiving, you're more loving, and he could definitely check out your channel. But I'm not going to have him here disturbing our topic. So guess what? Peace out. You get the boot, and just remember, there's jerks and assholes here in Wisconsin. So bye. Kick rocks. Anyways, back on topic. Yes, I had to get rid of him. So yeah, you know, Jeff, you're a great guy. You know, love you to death, and you have more patience than I do, by all means. So, no reason to say sorry. There are jerks in Florida. Yes, when I'm in Florida, there's jerks because my daughter says there's jerks in Florida. There's jerks everywhere.
Yeah, there's jerks. You know, so that means all of Florida is terrible, JD. You know that,
right? Exactly. Yeah. I didn't know that. Yeah.
If you're in Florida, you're a jerk. That's just what it means.
It's just right there, you know, just by that type of rhetoric is causing division. You know what I mean? And it's just race baiting and this and that. So, yeah, we don't have time for that. I'm with you right there 100%, Josh. Josh says, laugh out loud. I'm a good jerk in Wisconsin, laugh out loud. So, Yep, got the boot for sure. But once again, don't get complacent, people. You don't think it's going to happen. And I would have never thought. I would have never in my life thought, no. Virginia. Virginia.
Yep.
And what I'm telling you what, I don't understand how that governor got elected. I mean,
he wasn't originally from Virginia, and he's not lived in Virginia until just recently before his governorship. He's an absolute. I mean, guys, when you've got a man, let's just put the Second Amendment aside for a second. When you've got a man that can literally go on a radio show, and if you don't believe me, go look it up. This is not conjecture. This is not a theory. This is not whatever. This is absolute fact. There's video of him saying that and audio of him literally saying it. Okay, he went on a radio show talking about abortion, and some of the question was asked. They said, "Well, what if a baby is born?" During
I remember that.
A botched abortion and the baby is born live, what should happen? And he literally said, well, the doctor and the mother should have a conversation about how to proceed with that life and what should be done about it. So he opens the doors to say, well, if the mother and doctor talk about it and they want to go ahead and terminate that baby that's laying on the table crying, that's alive, they can go ahead and terminate that.
Wasn't that horrific?
Put the Second Amendment aside, and if you say something like that, you're a piece of trash. Sorry, that's not prejudice. You say something like that, then you don't believe you're a tyrant. You don't believe in God.
There's a special place in hell for people like that. Yeah, let me have the baby, and then look at the baby. The mother sits there and goes, "What do you think, Doc? How much will it cost me in diapers? And so I won't be able to go clubbing at night. So yeah, just go ahead and euthanize the baby. And then you have the left saying, "Oh, Trump, he's building a wall of the poor children, that are, coming across the border." And, these far left crazy wackos, they don't care about human life. And they especially don't care about the lives of children. And like I said in the live stream we did the other day, okay, now watching Governor Cuomo, which just drives me nuts sometimes. He does a live every morning, kind of like Trump does one every afternoon, talking about the COVID. And he talks about, lives are precious. But all around, the United States, they're closing down, gun ranges, which President Trump said gun ranges are essential. Keep them open. And your governor, what did he do? Close them down to the public. And he said they were for entertainment, but he's still allowing police officers and some of his friends. And I know there's a lawsuit. A judge is supposed to rule on it today. I don't know what the ruling is.
For you.
You got it?
I got it.
Okay, cool. And what I was going to say is, and I was going off, and then I just lost what I was going to say, but I'll remember again. But what was the ruling?
So there was an injunction made today by the officer in Lynchburg. Now, it was kind of an interesting, or not the officer, but the judge. It was an interesting injunction in that it only applied to the firearm range. It's in Lynchburg. It's called Safe Side Tactical. The injunction's a little bit interesting because it only applied to that one plaintiff, not the entire state, which is what the VCDL and the GOA, by the way, that's the Virginia Citizens Defense League and the Gun Owners Association of America. They were both the ones that were really pushing this lawsuit forward. And by the way, they're still working on it. They're looking at other legal action based upon the ruling today. But the injunction basically is the first really positive legal action where a judge is basically coming out and saying that the authority that the governor is using is over what his assigned and available authority is, which we all know that, right? We're finally seeing that from a legal perspective. So it's the first legal ruling that basically says, no, what he did is wrong. And the injunction, basically what it does is starting Monday, Safe Side Tactical is going to be opening back up. What an injunction does is it basically says that although there's this order that's been given, it basically temporarily suspends it for the plaintiff, which is Safe Side Tactical, and says they can continue operating until there's more decision made around this this bill, which will likely go to a higher court. It's probably going to raise it all the way up to the level potentially of the Supreme Court in Virginia. Go to the Supreme Court of the United States. Yeah,
what a total waste of taxpayer dollars and stuff because one man's ideology.
Yep.
And I remember what I was going to say when it comes to, essential businesses. They closed down all these businesses, but Planned Parenthood. And, you know, all the abortions, and they keep talking about all the deaths from the COVID-19, which we all know, many of us do know, that they have been extremely inflated, the death toll, because you know, hospitals were told to write, no matter what, if a person dies of a respiratory, you know, issue, if it's COPD, if it's pneumonia from the flu or whatever, write it down as COVID-19. But and they say we care about human life. Okay, well, if as soon as they started the lockdown nationwide, you know, and they started keeping track of the death toll, I guarantee you, okay, here, just say here's the death toll of COVID-19, through the roof is how many children have been aborted since they started tallying the numbers of people dying from COVID-19, the coronavirus. Amen. So don't sit there and go on there and say you care about the people and you care about people's lives. Yep. And you know, there are actually sick people. I know we're getting off topic, but it just shows the mindset of some of these governors and people, politicians like the AOCs and stuff that want communism, you know, and the Bernie Sanders crowds that want socialism. And one thing that blows my mind about socialism is they want free college. Well, why the heck would you want to spend 4 to 8 years in college? When you get out, you're going to be working a hard job and you're going to be making the same amount of money as the guy down the street flipping burgers, you know, because you can't be an entrepreneur in a socialist country. But it just blows my mind.
Now, I would say that's actually perfectly on point, because let me say this is something else that's another thought that's not commonly well understood. People think that the firearms issue is about firearms, okay? They think that the violence, when they talk about violence and saving lives, that it's a firearms violence, it's a gun violence issue. It's, first off, when it comes to gun violence, it has nothing to do with guns. It's a violence issue. Whether you're using a knife, a baseball bat, or your fist, it's a violence issue. We have a large violence issue in the United States that has nothing to do with firearms, okay? Has nothing to do with schools. That's a mental health crisis. There are different ways. The NRA, as well as others, have been proposing methods to try to battle that for decades, and no one's listening. So it's a violence issue. But secondly, the other point, when we talk about our firearms rights, it's not about firearms, guys. This is as fundamentally about our human rights as any other human rights issue in the history of the United States. If we want to go back to the right for women to vote, if we want to go back to prohibition, if we want to go back to looking at the racial injustices of the Jim Crow laws, right? We can go back to anything, right? This is a human rights issue. It's not about firearms. It's not about guns. It's not about scary things you don't understand. This is a human rights. And if you believe that your rights are important to you, then this should matter to you. Unless, now, if you believe that, you know, only you're the one that only matters, and if you're the only one that should have rights, but you can tell other people what to do, then you're a lefty. I guess that's the only way to say it, because then you're with them. But exactly. It's a human rights issue, JD.
And you're absolutely right. It's definitely a human right. And more people statistically die or murdered every year by a baseball bat and hammers. And here's another one, which I don't have a 223 on me right now. But if any of you all are familiar with Louder Crowder, he did probably last year. He was out on the streets and he had guns laid out. And he had the AR-15. He had some, you know, assault rifles, some military style tactical rifles. And then, you know, he asked these people, which one do you think is more deadly and more scarier? And they all went to like the AR-15 and, you know, the just anything that looked, even the tactical 12-gauge shotgun. And then he'd pull up like a, not a bolt action, but a semi-automatic 308. But it was an older style look, you know, it's got the antique look. And they're like, well, this gun is way more dangerous than this one, just by, you know, because propaganda, it's been pounded into their heads. Thank you there, Brother Mitchell, Sister Rhonda R. They've been putting the link to your channel as we've been going through. And Rhonda, good to see you, Brother Mitchell. Much love. So now you take the 223 round like this, and then you take the 308 round, you know, versus and your 22 round. They even had 22 round or 22 ARs that shoot 22 rounds.
Yep.
And they were picking them up and saying, "Oh, this is, you know, much more deadly than this and this, and I would prefer this. And each one that they picked and said that they think they feel safer with this, the caliber was way, way higher. Yeah. And, you know, it's visually, and the propaganda and the far left media, the CNN, all this crap. And it's just like Joe Biden. Oh, I'm going to take your AR-14. You know, there's no such thing as an AR-14. It just shows you how ignorant they are. But people realize when your governor was coming after saying all semi-automatic weapons, that's your handguns with a magazine in it. You know, yeah, it's not your revolver or your bolt action, but still you have bolt action, you know, like a bolt action 30-06 that could hold, you know, you can get a aftermarket magazine that holds 10 rounds versus your standard 4-round, you know, for your Remington. But any semi-automatic weapon is, you know, they got semi-automatic 12 gauges, etc. So a lot of people think, oh, semi-automatic assault rifle, you know, is these mean military M16 looking style, you know, AK-47, which that's next on my list. But you get what I'm saying? It's just people that have no idea about guns, that know more about a Super Soaker 7,777.7, you know, and the best airsoft guns, but don't know crap about, you know, you go and ask them what this is, have no idea it's a 308 round, you know. To your point, and I remember the exact video that you made. I thought that. You remember that one? You saw it?
Fantastic way that that Michael Crowder did that. I mean, that was point.
Stephen Crowder.
Yeah, Stephen Crowder. Excuse me, not Michael.
No, that's all right. I just want to make.
Yeah, no, the way that he highlighted that, and it was great. And the analogy that I make to people is I say, listen, when people talk about, you know, well, doesn't it make sense because it might save a life, or doesn't it make sense because who needs this many guns, or who needs that capacity? What I always tell people is I say, listen, if a violation or if an infringement or a restriction on a right makes sense for one right, then it should make sense for all rights. So what I say is, does it make sense if I say, you know, we're going to, from now on, whenever you write you know, when you write a newspaper article, it's only allowed to have 30 words or less. And by the way, you're only allowed to write one article per month. Oh, and by the way, if you've written any articles and your neighbor doesn't like it, we're going to show up and we're going to take away your pen and paper, and you're not going to be able to write until we figure out that it's okay for you to write. And we're also, you can't write at all unless you've been educated and taken a class. Okay.
Right.
You start applying those to, say, the First Amendment or any of the other, and you realize how absolutely insane it is, right? And so that to me is a perfect way to highlight the point. Again, it's not about firearms. This is about human rights. If they can do that to your firearms, just like you said, Diddy, in Michigan or Wisconsin, if they can tell you can't mow your yard,
Michigan,
you can't have a fire. Michigan, if they tell you you can't have a firearm, then how long is it before they say, well, you know what? That Bible is a King James, and last we checked, you know, you're only allowed to have the original one of Hebrew, so you got to learn Hebrew, and then eventually they'll just get rid of the Hebrew Bible too, right? They start taking it away inch by inch.
Well, that's what happened in California 2 years ago. Remember, they were trying to ban the sale of the Holy Bible and bookstores, etc. I thought, you know, that was a total fail, but they were fighting it hard, you know. And this is one thing I say too. And I know all our brothers and sisters in Christ, sub/friends, believers, non-believers, atheism, people that are atheists. In a sense, that's a belief because they believe that there is no God, and they use the power of the purse, so to speak, and they go to these small towns, and these small towns that have like a park, and there's a park bench that has some scripture on it or a memorial. They will come from California with their big fat wallets, you know, and you know, just because they caught whiff of it from somebody that went and visited or they read an article, and they'll take them to court.
Yeah.
And these small towns don't have the money to fight these bigwigs. So atheism, in a sense, is a form of belief. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I would even go further. And the thing that people don't understand about rights, like let's take atheism, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's an atheist watching this right now, that is your choice. You have the freedom to be an atheist. I'll tell you right now, not only is it non-Christian, it would be a violation of your rights to come and knock on your door and say, excuse me, sir, you're atheist. You have to believe in the Christian God or else you're going to go to jail. See, forcing a belief or forcing an action upon somebody is not liberty. It's not freedom. It's not their rights. If you want to be an atheist, That is your right. If you don't want to believe in God, that is your right. God gave you that choice, right? You have the
free will, buddy.
Well, the same with the Second Amendment. If you don't want a gun and you don't want to use them and you're scared, you're terrified, don't understand, maybe you do understand them perfectly and you just think you shouldn't have one. That is your right. You can choose that. But as soon as you start telling me what I can do, it would be no different for me to turn around and say, okay, you have to have a firearm. It has to be under your pillow. You have to, let's just say this. Having a firearm around your children, that is a potential risk because they could potentially get injured with it. It's no different than driving down the road. I mean, not having a firearm is also a risk because then someone can break in and you have to do whatever they tell you to do or they shoot you. But that's just it. You have the freedom to make the choice, right? All we're asking for is equal treatment. We're asking for equality to say, you get the right to choose. We want the right to choose. Neither one of us should be limiting each other's rights, right?
Right. Exactly.
To choose. And so it's the same thing with Christianity, atheism, guns, freedom of speech, whatever it is. We should have it. That's what freedom is. That's liberty, guys.
Yeah, and exactly. Atheism, they push their belief of non-belief onto others and say, take this down because it offends me or whatever. But it's crazy. But Wandy, whatever, got to be a troll, says, oh, I thought this was let's talk about Virginia. We're not bad-mouthing Virginia, but you're a little late to the show, 46 minutes in. But if you're not trolling, that's cool. If you are trolling, have fun. If that's what you do in life is troll channels on YouTube, hey, so be it. I bet your mom and dad are so proud. So anyways, another right there, you see Brother Jeff here. Check out his channel, Scott County, Virginia Gun Owners. There's the link. Thank you. It's great to have you back there. Okay. Yeah, I said vagina, not Virginia. All right, so we're 3 years old. Normally, I don't block people, but I know you're going to share this with your
no, it's all
group.
All good. I mean, listen,
I don't have time for that. I don't. It's just give me a break.
Yeah.
Go to a Sesame Street channel or something, or watch your Teletubbies, and snort some glitter and eat some Play-Doh. Oh, Sammy, sorry. I would have let you get him. I'm sorry. Next troll that comes in has got Sammy's name on it. So, anyways, going back to it, the leftists, they want to take away our rights, and some of them don't like guns. I've done many videos where I think people that hate guns but have families and choose that ideology, they put their family at risk. If they are head of the household and somebody kicks in the door, like I've said before, what are you going to do? Talk them down and, talk about cow farts and, hey, soy milk or whatever. No, you're pretty much at the mercy of the people that have kicked in your doors and that have guns. And probably 99.9% of them that kick in your doors got those guns illegally. So stricter gun laws are garbage. They don't work. They just take the guns out of good law-abiding citizens, and the bad guys, the criminals, will always get their hands on guns. They have them, stockpiled. We have the right to defend our lives. We have the right to defend our families, and I'll be damned if I'm going to have some crazy whack job, saying, a person that thinks that, okay, I identify as a unicorn and, drink soy lattes and snort glitter and eat Play-Doh and go to rallies and beat up old veterans and talk about how much they hate America. Tell me that I need to give up my Second Amendment right. Yep. You can kiss my rear end. And it just blows my mind. Hey, your sister's on. Cool Kim 21.
Yeah.
Hey, Kimmy, how you doing? Tell your mom I love her. God bless.
To your point, that's the thing of it is let's take a two general rule of thumbs, maybe. So from a Christian perspective, let's from an atheist perspective, if you believe in evolution, we came from monkeys. That's cool. That's your full right. So in that line of belief, the male was still predominantly the protector.
Mm-hmm.
From cavemen as early as we known, the male was always the dominant, kind of family leader kind of structure. That's the way we evolved in that belief system, right? So from that belief system, you believe that as the male, you should be the protector. By the way, the mothers are protectors as well. I'm not knocking on any women here too.
Mama bears.
Say that more so this whole Second Amendment thing. If I was a female, I would really be up in arms because if I would never lay a hand on my wife. Let's just really put that out there. But if I wanted to, I'm just going to be honest. I could take her out. Let's just be honest. Okay. If I was my wife, if there's ever any thought about a male attacking me, I would want a gun. I'm going to tell you right now, guys, I'm not that big of a dude. I'm not some big Billy bad dude. I want one in case there's ever a 6'7" dude coming after me. I want my firearm. But my point is if you believe in evolution, we are supposed to protect our family. The Christian Bible very clearly talks about the family structure and the fact that not only do we have a responsibility to protect our families as fathers, but we also have a responsibility, as it talks about in the Bible, about being the watchman at the wall, right? You're kind of watching the wall. If you see trouble coming, and if you don't blow the trumpet, and if swords enter into the city and they kill anybody, that blood is on your hands because you didn't sound the trumpet. Right. And so in the same way, it talks about this in the Old Testament that as they were building the temple, men actually, in one hand, they had stone and mortar that they were building, and in the other, they held their sword. Right. And the point of it is you have an accountability to your community and to others around you to also sound that warning. So the warning is this attack on our Second Amendment. But you have absolutely every biblical right to defend yourself and defend innocence.
That's our God-given right. Exactly. And going back to, what I say, if you're the head of the household, so to speak, even if there's not a man involved and you're a Democrat, you're like, oh, anti-gun, blah, 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 blah. And you just say you've got, 3 young daughters or 2 daughters and a boy and 2 or 3 guys kicking the door. But you had enough time to, reach for a gun. 90% of the time when you pop off a round, even in the ceiling, they turn around and haul ass because they're cowards. Yeah. But if you choose not to have a gun because of your ideology and you have children, and God forbid somebody kicks down a door, and guess what? You're tied up and you're listening to your children or your wife being raped in the other room. Well, guess what? Congratulations. That's your fault because you chose your ideology over the protection and the lives of your wife and children, your husband, your boyfriend, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Whoever is basically the protector in the household, that's what how I just could not imagine, especially in this day and age, living without my Second Amendment right.
And to put that into perspective, and you hit the nail right on the head, by the way. I mean, you're exactly right. But the thing, I don't know if anybody's had the opportunity to go to DC and visit the Holocaust Museum, but if you've not, if people have maybe seen Schindler's List or any one of the other movies about the atrocities that the Nazis did, one of the things most people I think have probably seen the pictures from the Holocaust of all the shoes. As they boarded Jews onto those trains, and they made them take off their shoes, they made them take off the jewelry. When you go through the Holocaust Museum in D.C., at least when I went through it, they had a hallway with railroad cars on either side and behind glass, and it had the shoes stacked up, right? And that's, it's one thing to sit here and make up a hypothetical about what could happen. When I think about, imagine for a moment, close your eyes and picture you standing there and someone looking at you saying, okay, you get on that one, you children get on that one, take off those shoes. We look at those shoes and they're older, leather shoes. Imagine if it was Nike and Adidas on that. And imagine how you would feel if someone's telling you and telling your children, get on that train, you're going to ride that train, we're separating you. That may be the last time you ever see your family. That's a real thing. It's a hypothetical to ever happen again. I pray it never happens again. But when I think about that, and if I try to put myself in those positions, the absolute horror and distraughtness and just they would have to kill me, and I would die scratching with my fingers if I had to. But imagine what that would feel like. And if you give up your rights to protect yourself, guys, that's the road you are opening the doors to say that might happen, but we think it'll be okay. See, I don't. That's too big of a risk. I'm like, no. Whatever we need to do to prevent that, let's prevent that.
Exactly, and you can't let down your guard because, like I said, people, shoot, not even a year ago, just months ago, I always would talk about SHTF situations, food, long-term food storage, ammo, etc. Being a prepper, you were a crazy whack job. Well, guess what? I'm probably one of the fattest preppers out there. You know what I mean? I'm not starving, and I'm not no offense, I'm not waiting in a food line. And because I didn't have enough food in my house and I went out to eat every night, you know what I'm saying? And, I'm not coming down on people, but they're looking at preppers now in a whole different way, saying, wait a minute, I guess they're not completely crazy. Look at Rome. Rome was, Rome fell, so to speak, the Roman Empire. We're a young baby country. We're 200 and some years old. We're tiny, and people think nothing could happen to us, this and that. And our Constitution, they cannot tread on our Constitution. There's not, I don't even know what I just hit. What the heck did I hit?
I still hear you, Jay. You there?
Didn't you see me?
I see you, brother.
I don't know. I hit some button and something popped up. I know nothing about computers, but right here, I still got my little Alex Jones Constitution book. I hope this thing goes away because it's driving me nuts already.
Well, while you're getting that figured out, Jay, if I can make a point here just to say something.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll put you full screen while I figure it out.
It
just went away.
You're good, brother. So when you talk about the Constitution, and people say, well, will that last? The thing I want people to understand, and I think it's foundational, it's educational, and it's absolutely true. Our rights do not come from the Constitution. Our rights do not come from the Bill of Rights. Our rights do not come from the governor, the president, or any other government authority. If you read the Constitution, they come from our Creator, period, right? Our Creator, he granted us unalienable rights, and those rights were given to us before we were yet known by our mother and our father. So before you were born, you were given these rights by God. They could take the Constitution, they could burn it, they could destroy it, which I never hope they do because it's a beautiful piece of literature. But they could take it and destroy it, and your rights are no less than they are right now. They're not gone. Your rights were given to you by God. Okay, period. Rights are no less than they are right now.
I got to turn that down. Somebody said I was blurry. No, go ahead.
So that's the it's important for people to understand. And another interesting thing that people don't understand this: the Constitution was written, and it wasn't until a while later that the Bill of Rights became part of that. And so during that, the Bill of Rights and the Constitution, all that, it's written to restrict governments on what they can do on interacting and infringing upon your rights. That's what it's about. It's not about saying what we can do. It's about what the government can't do, right? And there was a time period when the only rights were essentially life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in a nutshell, right? There was not. So at that point in time, you could have any kind of firearm, and really, guys, by the way, that's really the way it's still supposed to be. It's been misunderstood and twisted. But when they came out and they wrote the Second Amendment, the purpose of that was to give some context so that basically governments understood that this is the right of the people and you cannot infringe upon that. Now, it's been twisted around, and you hear people all the time say, my Second Amendment rights. And maybe they do understand it, and they're referring to the rights that are just mentioned in the Second Amendment. But I think most people misunderstand that, and they almost believe that it's the Second Amendment that gives me the rights. No, the Second Amendment is telling the government they cannot infringe upon your God-given rights. These are God-given rights. They're not Second Amendment. They're not constitutional rights. These are God-given rights. And by the way, I mentioned John Knox earlier. For those of you who don't know, his covenantal politics basically says that it relates to magistrates and the people. That's the first two are for the magistrates, the last two are for the people. And essentially across all four covenants of that in covenantal politics, it basically is about a vow to each other and a vow to God. And if you break those vows, then you're expressing tyranny, right? So if you're against anything that God has said.
Hold on 1 second. Sammy, you can whack that troll if you want. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, you're good. I didn't even see the comment come across there. All I'm going to say is, if you do anything that's in violation of what you know is God's desire for mankind, okay, if you work against God's law, you're a tyrant. If you're a citizen, then you're a tyrant. If you're a president, then you're a tyrant. If you're against God's law, you're a tyrant. That's essentially what John Knox states in his Covenantal Politics. And all the forefathers, as well as many of the people in the colonies at the time, were very familiar, and that was the foundation of their view for politics. So, you know, guys, stand with God. I tell people all the time, when these governors attack us and they're coming after our rights, you know, not only is it like a violation for us, it's an act against God, period.
Exactly.
I know I'm yabbering on, man. I'm sorry, Jade. I'm just, you know.
No. That was great. This is, you know, why I brought you here. You know, Jeff, I asked you to do the interview again because, once again, a lot of governors are using this pandemic or whatnot to, you know, smash our liberties. They're taking away. I mean, look what's going to happen after they. One thing that really agitates me now is now they're saying, okay, well, sunshine and heat kills the coronavirus, but they were talking about all the cases down in El Salvador and stuff, where right now it's like 95, close to 100 degrees, and near the equator and stuff. There's supposed cases of the COVID-19. I think all of a sudden it's just going to evaporate for a little bit and yada, yada, yada. But I'm not going on to the virus thing. I'm saying how the government is using this BS to take away our liberties and our rights. And then you're going to see how this world is changing, like social distancing. They're going to continue to practice this. And then going back to what you're talking about, the Holocaust, what happened? You know, when it came to propaganda, they took their guns. You know, that's one of the main reasons why they took their guns, because they had already planned on doing what they were going to do, this mass genocide. You know, it was planned a long time ago. And, you know, thankfully, we have a lot of strong patriots that will die for our Second Amendment. And we don't want that.
That's right.
You know, and somebody asked me the other live stream, says, so when do we use our Second Amendment, you know, against the government? That, like I said, is a very slippery slope. And I don't plan on having anybody kicking in my door and putting handcuffs on me. I'm not saying go out there and start shooting. No. But when they start trying to do a roundup, FEMA, and they're kicking in your doors, dragging your family and stuff like that, and then that's when militia groups need to get together, which they're already together. There's a silent majority, and these far left people don't realize the silent majority is out there. And people say, well, you're too loud talking about me. And, you know, the NSA is watching you and they know where your guns are. It's like, no crap. When I buy my guns, you know, I have to fill out the paperwork. They do the background check. You know, I pay with, you know, even if I pay with cash, it is a form of registry. They know I have guns. Okay.
Yep.
But I'm one of the people that go and put my life, you know, here on YouTube to warn other people and give them as much information that I have. Okay. Some people have to sacrifice, kind of like Paul Revere. The British are coming. The British are coming, you know, the watchmen, so to speak, when it comes to the news, different topics and stuff. And I want to address something too. And y'all know who I'm talking about. Brother Mark, you will too. And it's one thing I don't believe in. It's one reason I steered clear off of the certain live stream. Talking about the end days. We are living in very prophetic days.
Yep.
Bar none. Absolutely 110,000%. I mean, this book that was written over 2,000 years ago is spot on what's going on every single day. But to say that we should no longer be reporting on the news because it's ungodly, we should be watchmen and only talking about Christ, I am sorry. But if I see a prison break in Wisconsin or Alabama, and there's two guys and I've got the mugshot, they're rapists, I would like to do some breaking news because there might be some woman or a college student that happens to see Locked and Loaded did a breaking news on these two guys that broke out of a prison, you know, 10 miles down the road, and they know what that guy looks like. Well, yep. if they didn't see that being or me doing a breaking news or another news channel, you know, not like CNN or whatever, they wouldn't have never seen the mugshots of those two guys and would have never, you know, they could have just walked right up. You know what I'm saying? You still got to get the truth out. You still got to warn people what's going on in the world.
Yep. Guys,
so when I
love Samson. Samson's one of my favorite characters in the Bible, right? You want to get people on it. I mean, Samson didn't go around just preaching. Of course, you know, that was in the Old Testament, so that was before Jesus Christ. But what my point of it is Samson didn't just going around talking about, you know, that we should love one another and that we should just do God's covenant. Guys, God gave him the power to take the jawbone of an ass and kill 1,000 men.
Right.
I mean, you know, you have this lifetime is a test, and you know the blessed assurance that we have, the promise that we have from this guy right here, Jesus Christ, is that we know that when we die, I'm gonna tell you right now, there's two places you go to. It's one of the two, and to me, there's no middle ground. It's one of the two places you go to. If you're a saved, born again Christian, you have the assurance. You know, I don't worry about what's going to happen there, right? It's this life that I worry about. I worry about it for my kids because they've got to be here and continue this battle. This test is a life of a test, right? Eternity, I'm good. I don't worry about that, right? But you know, here on earth, we do have troubles. It's a fallen world. And so I believe absolutely with you, JD, it's an absolute responsibility that we look after one another. We take care of one another. You know, you look after the shelter, that anybody that, you know, is poor, doesn't have a shirt off their back, you know, you give it to them. If there's somebody that needs food, you give them food. If there's a widow, you know, you take care of that widow, you know, whatever it may be. We have an obligation, not only as decent humans. Again, let's go back to even the atheist perspective, right? I mean, if you want to go there, even from an atheist perspective, it's just a decent thing to be good to each other. From the Christian perspective, there's laws, there's God's laws that speak about that. So no matter how you come at it, you know, we should be certainly trying to we should spread the gospel of the Lord. That's the Great Commission in the Bible. Don't get me wrong, but there's
yes.
Stop there.
And I like what Brother Mark says. Balance is a great thing. Yes. And, you know, we talk about biblical prophecy all the time, but I was taken aback when all of a sudden the 24-hour live stream that, you know, the fellowship that we started, and then it turned into, okay, Jesus is coming. Yeah. I know Christ is coming. And yes, you're right. When you die, you go either up here or you go down there and you get to hang out with Muhammad, because he was a pedophile and he was a woman beater, and etc. And along with the rest of the satanic creep scumbags, you know. And yes, I did say, sorry, Muhammad's currently busy, so I don't know who you're praying to, because he's currently busy burning in hell. Yeah. So, but it's still my duty to, like I said, if there's a tornado coming, you know, hey, I know DB's in Georgia. Boom, there's a tornado. There's horrible tornado weather in Alabama, and it's moving easterly. Well, I'm going to do a breaking news because I seen it on another channel. And not everybody subscribed to the channels that I am, so they might not know. And so guess what? I just warn people to seek shelter or call their family members and say, hey, you have a tornado coming. So many times I've done that, and I've seen people leave comments said, oh my gosh, I have family there, or I'm right in the way, and I had no idea. Thank you. You know, thank you, Locked and Loaded, for the, you know. So how is reporting on the news ungodly? That just threw me for a loop, so I had to back out of it.
No, you're exactly. It's not ungodly. You're caring for your fellow man, JD, and that's what hey, I talk all the time about what it talks about in Corinthians. Whatever we do, we are to do it with love, and you should do it charity. Even chastising people, right? Even people we disagree with. When I do it, and it's not easy, I fail frequently at it. We should do it with love in mind, right? We should do it with charity. Charity is love. So don't be like that tingling bell, right? Don't be like the tingling cymbal. You know, have a voice of charity. When you talk to someone that hates you, look at them like, you know, listen, I'm sorry you hate me, and I'm sorry you want to take away my rights and you want to tell me what to do. I love you, and I want you to have freedom. And I want you to have the choice. And I'm sorry that you hate me, you know, and then walk away, you know what I mean? And just be peaceful about it.
You know how many people hate me? Holy cow. Oh my gosh. I can't even count how many people hate me, especially Locked and Loaded.
I'm from Virginia, JD, but I promise you, I love you, man.
Oh, I love you too. So, you know, yeah, That's a good one to that troll that was saying all people in Virginia. That just goes to show you, you know, I hate to say the word ignorance, that everybody in Virginia is, you know, jerks and racist and that and blah, blah. Oh, give me a break. I mean, and that's the mindset some people have, you know. And a lot of people that call people racist are by far some of the most racist people there is. So what goes behind, you know, what happens behind closed doors is absolutely mind-blowing, the hypocrisy, so to speak.
Well, and I tell my kids all the time, I say, you know, guys, you can't control somebody else, right? I cannot make someone love me. I cannot make someone like me. I cannot change someone's opinion about me. What I can control is me. I can control my actions, and I can control my reactions. So if someone does something to me, I have a choice. I can stoop to their level. I can say I hate them. I can cuss. I can do whatever. You know, the best thing to do is just say, you know what, I control my actions, and I have a level of behavior that I hope. And I know I fail. By the way, I'm far from perfect. I'm not saying that. I fail daily, right? But the point of it is I can control myself. Don't worry about other people. Control yourself and represent yourself well for Christ.
Exactly. And that's why trolls don't bother me. You know, sometimes I have to get rid of them when they start saying things like that. But when trolls attack me in comments, you know, etc., you know, it cracks me up. You know, to me, it's funny. But when they start attacking people, you know, like a troll's attacking AB, I know he's thick-skinned. He could deal with it. Josh as well. But, you know, just say Sister Veronica, Sammy, Ms. Mary, my daughter, you know, boom, I got to get rid of them. But, you know, and life outside of this world, you know, look, I'm not even this, once again, going back to this pandemic, whatever, walking through Walmart. I mean, people used to, you know, step aside when I walk, not trying to, for some reason, maybe it's the tattoos, I look mean or something, I don't know. But now it's like I got cooties, even worse. They're like, you know, people are like sticking their bodies up against the shelves and stuff as you walk past. If you notice, and then you'll see people dancing, you know, because they're like sidestepping like football. It's like, which, you know, and people are so confused, and it's crazy world we live in. And like I said, going back to our freedoms, our Constitution, you know, people thought this would never happen. Never in a million years. Did you ever think that you'd be told that you cannot travel? You cannot leave. You cannot travel into another state. I cannot, because I'm in Wisconsin. I cannot go and hop in my car or my RV right now and travel down to Florida for my daughter's her birth, or my daughter's baby's birth, because I'm not allowed to cross state lines, because I am, you know, basically I can't go through Illinois. That's one thing I can't go through. And I got to go, I got to bypass, go right across, or not across, but beside Chicago. You know, that's the way to get to Florida. Yeah. And I'm not going and I can't go to Minnesota. You know, Minnesota's on a really heavy lockdown as well.
Well, you know, so, the consideration I tell people, I say, think of it this way. This is the question to ask yourself when it comes. I love the way you say pandemic, by the way. So when you have two, there's two scenarios here that you have to ask yourself. And the question is think about your children and think about your grandchildren, right? Everybody in their entire lifetime is going to face risks. You face a risk. If you drive a car, you face a risk. If you walk outside your door, you face a risk. You walk outside, a bird could come attack you, right? We're all going to face risk in our life, okay? Here's the question. Do you want, one day when your children or grandchildren are faced with risks, do you want them to have the liberty to choose to look at the risks and evaluate it and mitigate those risks according to their own freedom and what's best for them and the people around them, according to what the best way that they want to handle that for their own good? Or do you want someone who may be 1,000 miles away, who doesn't even know them and may not even care about them, to limit them, or even worse, tell them that, you know, before you go outside your door, you have to do this. And if you don't do it, you might face fines and jail time. Right? Those are the two choices. And I tell people, you know, I realize my son may make the wrong choice. I realize my daughter may choose wrong and she may be injured. Whereas if she listened to somebody 1,000 miles away, she may not have been injured. But that's right. The point of it is they have the freedom to choose. in that moment, free of prejudice and free of punishment and retribution from the government, what they think is best for their risk mitigation situation. And that's always going to be the right answer, period.
Let's go on a topic real quick. I just saw my screen light up, and I just want to thank. I just got a $20 donation on PayPal. Was not expecting that at all, and I want to, while you're talking or I'm talking, I want to give a huge shout out, thank you to whoever donated it.
I think Josh mentioned it there earlier in his comments, JD. I did see that particular.
Oh, it was Josh?
Yeah, it's perfect timing because you got him up right there.
Brother Josh, thank you there, brother. Money is waiting for you. It doesn't say, okay. It's not saying who it's from, but Brother Josh, thank you very, very much. And guess what? I'll buy, what we'll do is we'll buy some, with that $20, I'll go out and buy some 223 rounds, and we'll just light up. I did name my AR 15. I named her Baby Girl. So we got Trinity and Baby Girl because she's so lightweight. She's like my daughter and somebody else. Real small, but a little lightweight, but a firecracker. Powerful. So yeah, see, Brother Josh here, he lives about 60 miles from me. He's in the Green Bay area. So we'll definitely we'll have to do a video and another video with our boomsticks. The boom boom wada wada bing bang boom boom sticks. So thank you very, very much, Brother Josh. That'll go to the Locked and Loaded Ammo Fund. So anyways, tell me some more there, brother. Sorry, I had to cut you off. I just seen it pop up. And
no, you're good. I mean, you know, what we're seeing with this pandemic, it's like I've told people. I said, man, you know, if I'm not a huge conspiracy theorist, but I believe, like the old saying, with every conspiracy, there's probably a little bit of truth. If you, regardless of where you think this virus came from, regardless of how you think we should be doing, what to me is undeniable and unquestionable is the fact it's being used. There's an old saying that says, you know, no crisis goes unused, and we are seeing that right now. So, you know, let's take Virginia. You know, Northam, he first said that, you know, when he first extended the lockdown measures, he extended it to June 10th. And by the way, June 9th at that time was scheduled for June 9th was the Republican primaries. And it was interesting because it was a 70-day period that he picked. It was more than any other state in the country that I was aware of. And it was weird. It was like 70 days. It wasn't 75. It wasn't 50 or 100. It was 70 days. It's kind of a weird number, right? And so, you know, to me, if I wanted to take control, if I wanted to, you know, you wouldn't just go out and just do it. You'd test people, right? And that to me is what this is. This is and maybe it's not even intentional. I really believe
it's intentional.
Well, what I'm saying is I think there are some good people that are making recommendations and they really mean well. I guess is what I don't want to think that everybody's out to get us, but there's absolutely, it's imperative to understand that if they can do this right now and go, you know, there's this pandemic, and if people get around each other, they're going to get sick. And, you know, during that situation, we can say, let's stop guns, let's stop food, let's stop churches. By the way, we've seen churches get fined, people get fined $500 for sitting in their car in a parking lot. For sitting, that's no joke, look it up. Sitting in a car in a parking lot. We saw Florida, there was a minister that got arrested. Saw I believe it was either Kentucky or West Virginia, there was it was on Easter weekend. There was a mayor that said that anybody that showed up for church the next day was going to get a fine. Now, in that particular instance, there was a judge that overruled him. That was great. But we're seeing they're testing the waters, and don't think don't think they won't do it again. And my big concern is this going to be the new normal when there's like a flu outbreak? And before people say,
they've already talked about it. They've already talked about that. Even the Trump administration, which I support Trump, you know, he's being fed all this advice or data, but they're saying that, okay, when they do open up the government or they open up our country, if there's a sudden flu outbreak, that they're going to treat it like they're treating the COVID-19, that they will implement the social distancing and closing, you know, to me, we're a bunch of lab rats right now.
Yep.
And they're watching us. They're studying us. They're seeing how we're reacting. They're using data through our cell phones, just like they're doing in Israel and other countries, to see if, how do they expect you to go into a store and maintain that 6-foot distance to a cashier?
Yeah.
You're talking 3.5 feet.
Not if you're exchanging money, or at least a card. I mean, most of the times, right?
Exactly. But it's just crazy. And then when you see these police officers, like the mom that was arrested on the playground, all these, she had her kids, and there was a lot of moms there. But a lot of these police officers that are arresting people, they don't have any mask on. They're not, they're arresting people for not implementing or abiding by the social distancing, but they're standing shoulder to shoulder. They're, shaking each other's hands and going off to another call. I love our men and women in blue, but there's good on all aspects. My brother was a phenomenal police officer. He was a good man. But it's just crazy. You have the wife, the husband and wife, and that were they were cited in oh my God, Central Park in Manhattan. But people don't realize they were given a $1,000 ticket fine each, their husband and wife. But they don't know. People are like, well, that's crazy. That's $2,000. But on top of that fine, there's a possibility they can go to jail, each of them, for 180 days while they're letting out criminals out of jail to stop the spread. Plus, I did a video on a news clipping with Trey Gowdy and Huckabee, where there was a 4-1 vote or 5-1 vote. I forgot how it went right off the rip. But they were going to let this serial killer out, the green something serial killer who killed dozens and dozens of women. They were going to release him, and it had to it was like a 5-4 vote. One vote kept that serial killer from being let out of prison. And to me, that's to allow civil unrest. And that's why we need our Second Amendment. And like I said, with the food shortage that's right over the horizon, we produce 10% of our wheat. Russia produces most of the wheat in the around the world. I didn't know that. Well, guess what? Russia's not going to be selling us wheat. They're hoarding their wheat. Look at the back of cereal boxes and all kinds of stuff. Bread, wheat is made. So much stuff is made with wheat. And then you got the meat shortages. China owns a lot of these meat factories, and Brazil owns a lot of the poultry. But you have my favorite guest on, Sister Minnie. Sister Minnie Meeks says, have my favorite guest on.
That's sweet. I appreciate that. I saw Benny Maybe earlier made a comment as well. She said she appreciated everything. So thank y'all. JD, just to build on your points, you brought up several things that brought something to my mind. You talk about releasing the felons. Again, if you're an anti-gun Democrat, what better way that's a win-win for you to let someone out? That way you can say that, oh, we believe in sympathy. We believe in repatriotizing our people into the society. When you let out someone that's probably going to go out and use a gun, that's going to also help your cause, because you're going to say, look at all these people that are dying from firearms, right? It's a win-win for them, right? They really don't care about the people. They care about their agenda, right? The other thing I would say, it's interesting because people talk about this pandemic, and you know how naturally I use that right there, pandemic? Do you like that? Yeah. People, we can sit here and talk about and we can complain about things, but the thing I try to say is to people, they ask me, they say, well, what would you have done? How could you maintain freedom during this? I say, listen, it's like the 2 points I said earlier. You have the right to risk yourself, right? So to me, recommendations would be fine. And if I choose to go to the supermarket, I can go to the supermarket. Now, some people say, well, what if you have a weak immune system? I say, listen, there are doctors and nurses that are going around people that 100% have the COVID. And guess what? They don't die. They don't even catch it, okay? Because they wear the proper PPE. If I had a weakened immune system, I have the freedom and I would have the choice. I could stay at home if I wanted to. I could call my brother or my sister or whatever else and say, hey, my neighbor, can you go do this for me because I don't want to? They can tell me no, and I can try someone else. Or I could buy a hazmat suit, and I promise you, I could go anywhere in the United States, walk around anybody that has anything, and I'm going to be fine, right? That's freedom. And that to me is what could have been done during this pandemic. When they say, what would you have done? I would have said, listen, make all the recommendations you want. Recommend that people stay home. If this might be extreme, but let's say my job requires me to risk myself. I can quit my job. Okay. Right. That's my freedom, right? It could have been done and still aligned with liberties and still had recommendations that would have went along with the CDC or whatever other spatial distancing we needed. But again, people have the right to choose, period.
Me and AB were having this conversation early this morning, if it was yesterday, I can't remember. My days are just falling, they're, fogging into another day because for me, there's no set time. I got concrete to pour this day, whatever. But I forgot what Roadhouse, something Roadhouse. Man, my brain is just not working today. But they're opening up May 6th, I believe. And he got an email. AB, if you could type in the chat, or if you want to jump on the panel real quick, because he's got some great information. He's, independent truck driver. It's in Texas, or you might be answering somebody else's question. Oh, Texas Roadhouse. Okay, thank you. God, I'm an idiot. But, they're going to be opening up the doors for people to come in. And guess what? It's your decision. You're right. If you want to go in, if you believe that this pandemic is, real, that the virus is, I believe the virus is definitely real. I know a bioengineered weapon. I believe it was made to instill fear. It's maybe a prototype. It's very contagious, but it's not as deadly as they're saying. The flu is so much more deadly. At first, I was on the bandwagon, like, holy crap, this COVID-19 is going to kill everybody. So it's going to, my daughter, etc., is going to be sick. It was just terrible. I went through that, and then I started thinking, wait a minute, these numbers aren't adding up. Just like AB would call me and be like, man, these numbers aren't adding up. And then when the CDC got busted for, sending out letters to these big hospitals and telling them to, hey, no matter what, if, a person dies, you got people on their death certificate that says death, coronavirus, COVID-19, but they were never tested for it. They just died of a respiratory system, respiratory ailments, COPD, it's crazy, but.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions. I see people asking what's SCVGO. It's Scott County. It's Scott County, Virginia gun owners. If you don't care, Gene, I'm just going to throw it here again for you.
Oh, I didn't put your link I just had up. I'll put it back. Scott County. I forgot to put the V in there. See, what happened is I was trying to beat the algorithm because the video I put out, which took me over 3.5 hours on this stupid app. Huh?
Awesome video, by the way.
Yeah, If anybody's wondering, I'm going to play it on here because guess what? I'll probably get a copyright strike. I got one for playing Sister Crystal Gypsy's video.
Mitchell Reese, I appreciate the links and everything. Yeah, Scott County, Virginia gun owners is who we are out of Scott County, Virginia. There's a lot happening in Virginia. Guys, it's a forefront right now for a lot of the rights, but it's also opening up in other states. We're not unique. We're probably unique in maybe how much attention and how far the governor's pushing it. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm actually writing an article. Virginia, by the way, I should be getting an article published pretty soon in New Hampshire. There's a group up there that I've been working with. It's a lot harder to get the article written. I'm not going to lie, it took a lot longer than I thought. But they basically were coming on saying that Virginia's a lost cause. We need to just forget about Virginia and focus elsewhere. And I wrote a defense article telling them I was basically telling them, I said, if that's your attitude, then you've already lost it in New Hampshire as well. I said, we've got to be on the forefront of this. Our rights don't end at state lines. Our rights exist wherever we go. They're God-given. And so Virginia's the front running on this one, and we're going to stop it in Virginia. So there's a lot going on. I know someone asked a minute ago what all's happening. You can go back and watch the video. We talked about it earlier. There's a lot going on. The governor just signed a lot of things that are going to law July 1st. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. We are going to vote them out, and we are absolutely at the ballot box going to take back this state and restore every single one of those rights. So sorry to throw that out there, Jenny, but I just want to throw out there for the question that was asked.
You don't have to apologize, brother. I asked you to come on this stream. I want you to talk, but I want to share the video that I made, which was it took forever ever. And I was going to do some other shooting footage or whatever, but it was raining cats and dogs, so I had to use some older one. But I'm going to do a screen share if you haven't seen it yet. And the man that's shooting the SKS and the handgun, that was my brother, big brother that I lost of glioblastoma, terminal brain cancer. And he was actually fighting brain cancer and had a surgery. He was an NRA gun instructor for concealed weapons. He was a police officer for Daytona Beach. After he arrested the mayor of Daytona Beach on a DUI, they kind of politics came involved, and he kind of had to bow out of being a police officer because of his moral compass, so to speak. So I'm going to do a screen share here, and,
awesome.
And I'll show the video quick. And you can see why the title of the live stream is what it is, because it says Virginia governor and his attack on the Second Amendment live stream tonight. I couldn't put that in the title here for the live stream, or there would have been no nobody would have got any notifications at all. But I don't like this app. I'll get rid of it, but it took me forever. I was so mad. But on that cardboard, I know it's blurry, but it says pedos, UN, New World Order, NWO. That's what I just want to give people a heads up on that. That's my brother. There's Jeff. You know what I want to tell a lot of people?
What's that, brother?
Right here, Scott County, Virginia gun owners. Even if you're in a state right now where your Second Amendment's not being infringed on, you know, a lot of people should really start, you know, some groups like this in their local. And you don't have to be in order to basically, it's not like you said, a club you join, but to support you all and be a part of Scott County, Virginia gun owners. You don't have to live in the state, you know.
Well, you know, actually, it's interesting you should say that, JD, because we've got groups popping up all over. People have asked, you know, what are we about? We certainly are about the Second Amendment because that's what brought this about. But, you know, when we get all our rights back, that doesn't mean we close our doors and we're done. And I've told people, I said, you know, no matter what state you're in, you're exactly right. You said it beautifully. You should be doing this. And if you ask yourself, well, our Second Amendments are under attack here, that's okay. There's plenty you can do. You may have a tornado that comes through your state. Help out those people. You may have someone in your community that their house burns down, right? Give them some food, give them some clothes. Our organization is about that as well. And by the way, a lot of militia groups or just patriot groups, whatever you want to call them, that's exactly what they're about as well. There's always a need in your community. If you're a volunteer and if you've got time and you've got a heart and you love people, guys, you can help out. You can make phone calls, right? If you say, well, I'm just busy, I'm disabled, right? I can't get out of the house. You can make phone calls, right? I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. There are probably elderly people that can't go to church right now during this pandemic. And you know what? You could just call them and say, hey, Miss Smith, I'm John's whatever, John Stockton from such and such state. And I heard about you, just wanted to call you and just see how you doing. How's your family doing? What's your situation? Because they may not have talked to anybody. And well, since this pandemic started, they may be locked at home, right? There's always, you've got a lover's heart and you want to help out people no matter where you come from, no matter what race, creed, color, gender you are. There's only two genders, which you're male or female, whatever you are, you can help out. Okay, guys.
No unicorns, doesn't,
Yeah, I'm not unicorns. You're exactly right. So it was funny because I said that the other day. I said, no matter what gender you are, and someone said, how many are there? I said, oh, I should clarify. Yeah, whether you're male or female, you can help out. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Always something to do.
That drives me nuts when I'm filling something out now and it says, what gender, male, female, or other. It's just like, But hey, the Bible warned us about days like these.
That's right.
When good will become evil and evil will become good. And it just go on and on. But, like you said, and that's another thing when you said about, elderly people help, around the community. If just say your neighbors are older or whatnot. Those are the ones, though, that, I'm telling you, people think it's, you're trying to scare people. There's definitely going to be a food shortage there. It's already, we're about a couple weeks from now. For the UN to come out and say it's going to be a famine of biblical proportion, for the UN to use the word biblical kind of blew me away, food wise. But you're going to have people that have never broken the law before, that didn't heed warning and didn't stock up on food and stuff, and they're looking at their children that are hungry, and they know that, like I said before, Grandma Smith and Grandpa Smith down the road always have a garden every year, and they talk about how much they love canning food, and they're going to be hungry, and they are going to turn, primitive, so to speak, and they may kick in the door. They may kick in the door and just take some of the food. Or they might overstep bounds and kick in the door and take the lives of those people. That's why our Second Amendment is so important when it comes to civil unrest. But then you're going to have the government trying to convince people, hey, we need to take the guns because there's going to be a food shortage and people are going to start rioting and shooting each other. And then comes your false flag event, okay? You're going to have protesters. Then you're going to get somebody out there that's going to light up the place. Government psyop, I don't know.
Yep.
Or, it could, well, go ahead. I see you reading some comments you want to address.
No, I was just going to say to Candy Smith, I'll be praying for, I know she says no one calls me and just asks how I'm doing. And everyone texts, it's not the same. Sammy C said the same. And I agree with her. That's a perfect point. Guys, as human beings, biblically speaking, and again, from an evolutionary perspective, I don't care where you come from, we are social creatures, right? And so, Candy, I'll pray for you. I know that's tough. I know it is, and it's not the same when people just text. I want to throw out one thing just real quick. There's a group. We just did a panel discussion on my channel the other day. It was kind of a team meeting for this group out of Russell County, Virginia. That's called the Russell Creed. It's CREED, and it stands for County Recovery, Emergency Evacuation, and Deployment. And it was their first team meeting because of the lockdown. They had to do it. They had to do it remotely. But I just want to give you an example. So they're a militia, essentially a militia group. And to give you people an idea about, people just think militias or whatever are about guns or whatever else. One of the things that they said they did is they said there was a local area where there's a kind of fishing spot, and it was usually mowed and maintained, and it hadn't been, so it had really became overgrown. And there was I believe they said it was a boy in the community who was bound to a wheelchair, and that was his favorite spot. He liked to go fish, and
oh wow,
they weren't going to maintain it. So this Creed group, they spoke up, and they actually went to the county and talked about having to get that maintained. And they said they were actually going to send members there to just, regardless of what the county did, they said, we'll take care of it. We're going to clear this out. We're going to make sure that boy and whoever else, gets to get down there. And that's that's what it's about. I mean, you know, these are community groups that are just, I mean, you think about that poor kid that wanted to go in his wheelchair and go fishing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, man, come on. I mean, you know, if you don't, it's not just about guns. It's not just about training. It's not just about camping. It's, you know, and survival and prepping. Guys, you know, it's about taking a Thanksgiving meal to the people that just lost their father or their mother or whatever else, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, a lot of militia groups are filled with patriots that love our country. And you know what? I'm going to get some backlash from this, but I don't care. But when's the last time did you see Black Lives Matter go mow, you know, a spot for, you know, a child in a wheelchair? It has nothing to do with color, but a lot of, you know, these that are fueled by race baiting people like Al Sharpton and Louis Farrakhan and all that, you know, all they're about is protesting and, you know, this and that. Not so much anymore because that's died out, etc. But when it comes to militias, they have such a bad name and they do so much outside of, like you say, training, this and that. And we do need our militias. And if you're, you know, I would love to. I tried to find a group around here in Wisconsin. Wasn't able to because some of them were, you know, just a little, you know, there are some wackos out there that, you know, you get 2 or 3 guys that, you know, decide they're going to start a militia group. And turns out 2 of them are, you know, four-time felons or whatever. You know, it's just crazy. But do your research. If you're not in a militia, you know, 3%er, do your research, get to know these people, you know, before you go jumping into, you know, it's to a militia group. But like, I was just clarifying what you were saying, that they do so much.
They do. And, you know, I mean, I know like the Creed group, I mean, one of the things, I mean, they're going to have like sewing classes, crocheting classes, gardening classes.
Really?
I mean, so many things. It's just, I mean, and it's just about basically a little bit of self-independence, self-reliance, education. I mean, how could any of those things be bad? That's what gets me when people talk about it like, oh, they're crazy. How can any of those things, how are any of those things crazy, right? I mean, again, you know, from a Christian perspective, for eternity, I know where I'm going. I don't worry about it. But here in this life, you know, there might be, I mean, we live in an area where it floods. Literally, when it floods, you can, I mean, it's not that I mean, I can put my canoe in the water, or I can probably get out through the back holler. I could walk out. But, you know, that might be a time period where the power's out. And I mean, you know, I mean, literally, I have had to cook. We've cooked ramen noodles over a fire during power outages before here in our community. So, and I mean, you know, how many kids don't know how to start a fire, right? Now, people freak out. And they instantly, if you say that, they're going to say, "Oh, you're trying to promote a kid to go burn down a house." No, I'm teaching a kid like some basic
survive,
right? Fire. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If they abuse it, you know, that's bad. I mean, you can go punch somebody. That's bad. But are you going to cut your kids' hands off so they don't punch somebody? I mean, you know, come on, give me a break, you know.
Yeah, and that's one thing your dad was awesome about, you know, was teaching you all, you know, when you were younger. And I learned so much from your dad growing up, you know. Like I said, he was more of a father figure than what I ever had.
Can I tell you something real quick? It's kind of cool. I know you're not on Facebook much, JD, but it was kind of cool. You'll appreciate this. I know you've shot it. You know, the old Marlin 39As, the lever actions we used to take down to Tim's down in Greenville. And Dad's little 22. We shot them this weekend with my kids. And I cleaned them up there last night and was putting them away this morning, was out in the garage. I've been out in the garage many times the last several days and hadn't seen this morning when I was out there with his 22s. Sorry. But there was a cardinal that flew in the garage. And that meant a lot to me. Y'all know what they say about cardinals.
Yeah.
You know, it's someone and I don't care if it's true or not. It doesn't matter. It made me think.
Hey, my brother told me he'd send me 2 cardinals every time. And I have been, you know, every now and then I'll see 2 together and I'm right there with you. Cheers, brother.
Because there I was. I've been out there several times. And, you know, here I was. I literally had that rifle and that pistol in my hand. Just walked up there and I heard something. Turned around. There was that cardinal. And I was
That's
like,
amazing.
You know.
Yeah, that is awesome. As your dad there, brother.
Yes,
That's,
sir.
There's no way around it. You know, there's no such thing as coincidences. I'm telling you. Yeah. And, you know, I'll tell you another one. My sister Debbie, who has cerebral palsy, she's nonverbal. She's been in a nursing home for, years she's older than my brother. She actually helped bottle feed me when I was a baby. Debbie D. Was very, very, very close to her. My sister Leslie went up to see my sister Debbie. We have different moms. So after my brother died, well, my brother told us when he was in hospice, if you ever see two red cardinals together, that's me saying hey, me saying hi. Yeah. So my sister Debbie was pointing to the closet, where she has her stuffed animals and stuff, and she was pointing that she wanted something. And my sister was like, what does she want? What do you want? And she's like picking up stuff. And she's like, no. And then she picked up a towel. My sister has to have a drill rag, but she was holding a towel. And once they wheeled her outside in her wheelchair and, showing her going for a walk, when they came back, my sister Debbie held up the towel, and it was two red cardinals on the towel. That's and awesome. This was like a week after my brother died. And then I went to I forgot where I was at, and I stopped in where they have mints.
Yeah.
And normally I don't grab mints and put them in my pocket, but for some reason I did. I grabbed a few that were in packets, and this was about 3 weeks after my brother died. And I went to open one, and on it, I don't know what kind of mint it is, if you all know, and it had two red cardinals on it. Just simple things like that. It's if you don't look at signs like that and know that's your loved ones sending a message saying, hey, I'm okay, I'm happy, I'm in the kingdom of heaven, I'm safe. And they're probably looking down on us laughing, saying, oh man, I'm glad I'm not out of this place, or I'm not living there anymore.
So people say all the time, they say, the people that are atheists or against Christianity, they say, Jesus did there's all kinds of miracles described in here. And, why does he not do those anymore? And I say, you know what? Miracles happen every day if you're willing to open your eyes and look at them.
Amen, brother.
You're exactly right. You can call them coincidences. You can describe them by nature, whatever you want. Whatever happens, there's a reason it happened. And to me, there are many times that miracles happen in every one of our lives if we're willing to look at it that way.
Right. You're absolutely right. And, that goes to say one thing. What's the old saying? You'll never find an atheist on an airplane going through real bad turbulence. Oh my God, dear God, I'll never do this again. I'll never do that again. Just please let this plane land, and a lot of people do a lot of praying, and I remember I used to pray after coming, a hangover.
It's like that hate cops and hate guns. They say when someone breaks into your house, the first thing you're going to do is call somebody with a gun. Going to call a cop with a gun, right? I mean, that's the first thing you're going to do. So.
Oh, I know. You see all the people saying, like even the Antifa members, you pigs, and F the police, and and same thing. I hate to say it, but in the hood, they're like, F the police, this and that. How many 911 calls have you heard? Get the ambulance here. Get them here right now. Get here. Some of the first people to call 911. And like I said, when you got Antifa, somebody breaks in your mommy's basement and steals your prized Pokemon collection, you're going to be the first one to call, 911. Somebody stole my RTD, whatever, class 291 and my bottle of glitter, that I got at an Antifa rally. My Bernie Sanders glitter pack, call the cops. Somebody, it's just like, don't sit there and scream F the police and this and that if you're going to call 911. If you're not going to call 911, then whatever. It's just
walk the walk. I mean, if you're going to talk the talk, at least walk the walk, right?
There you go. Yeah. I got a massive headache today. I have them all the time, but that's why I'm kind of off, and I appreciate you, kind of keeping me on track here because it's in my head. It's just not coming out of my mouth. But
you're good.
Yeah, if you're going to talk the talk, you better walk the walk. People that hate the police will be some of the first people to call. Somebody bumped into my car. Somebody was turning around in a snowstorm and hit my car with their passenger side window or mirror, and I'm gonna call the cops. Something crazy like that. That wouldn't happen.
Yep.
So inside joke. But anyways, brother, it was a pleasure having you on here, and I'm getting tired myself. I'm gonna scroll up and see if here we go. Brother Mitchell's link or not. Please, everybody, if you haven't seen, if you see this in the archives as well, this is the link to Jeff Arrington. If y'all are wondering why he's calling me JD, no, that was my nickname growing up ever since I was, I don't know, a couple months old. And everybody in my family calls me JD. And your dad's name was JD. So that used to, I remember when your mom would come in, JD, be like, ask your dad, which one, and, or if I'd hear your dad say, JD, get in here. I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble, and your dad, he wasn't a violent man or whatever, but I'd get those lectures, and he would just, and the worst thing that I ever remember your dad ever saying to me was that he was disappointed in me.
Yeah.
I took beatings from my dad, my stepdad. I've been choked unconscious, kicked across the room, you name it, bloody mouth. I would take those any day over being when your dad said, he was disappointed in me. That was like getting kicked in the gut,
Was.
Your dad's awesome. He still is,
Yeah.
So
thank you.
I love you, brother, and thank you for coming on. And 1 hour and 50-minute stream. Thank you, everybody that came and went, and people that stayed on. And yeah,
Read your
like
Bible.
Raul says, Prophet Easy One, Raul, and a lot of people read your Bible, and give me a heads up too, because with the notifications, just send me a text message next time you do a live stream, and because I definitely want to be a part in the chat, and so love you, brother. Let your mom know I love her, and your brother, which I know they're probably all watching right now anyways.
Yep.
But I haven't seen your brother in the chat, so he'll see afterwards. So Kimmy, Miss Jean, Jeff, you, Jason, even Scott. I know Scott actually jumped on my stream a while back. I was shocked. And so I was like, man, I haven't seen or talked to Scott in forever. So much love to you all. Y'all are family, you know that. And you're welcome on here anytime. And so anyways, thanks for the information. And hey, real quick, is your father-in-law, is he still doing the Sunday? Is he?
Yeah. So yeah, if you all do a search for it sounds funny name. It's Darthula Baptist Church, YouTube.
Darthula?
Yeah, it's Darthula. And a lot of people ask about it's kind of a weird name. The lady that donated the land and helped with the financial of getting the church set up in the 1800s, her name was Darthula. She's buried at the church. So that's where the name comes from. But if you look up Darthula Baptist Church, YouTube, do a Google search and it'll pull it up. Every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, he broadcasts his services. He's a little nervous, so he would certainly appreciate the prayers. We started the live streams with this pandemic. I saw Scamdemic also called earlier.
Yeah, I saw that. I caught it.
So to all the viewers, JD, to you, man, brother, we love you. You're like family. You are family. You're not like family. You're family to us. You know that.
I was going to say, what? Like family.
to Brother Reese and all the other viewers that have been sharing the links, I really appreciate it. Sammy C put Darthula Baptist Church on there. She nailed it. So
all right, yeah, leave that up there. Yeah, so if you're at home and you want a good Sunday service and you don't have to worry about buying coffee or listening about global gold investments, etc., and you just want a good, wholesome, just sitting back at church, I'm telling you what, the first one I watched of your father-in-law, when he told that story about his son going to war and being a POW, I'm just talking about it right now, I'm getting goosebumps. Man, I had tears coming out of my eyes. That was his first one. And somehow I lost the link. I don't know. I know I subscribed, but it must have got unsubscribed. Look at that. She found the link to it.
That's it right there. Yep. I'll tell you. So Layton, we're a small church, guys. When we have services, it's a small congregation. So if you want that small church feel, we'd love to have you join us. We take prayer requests. It's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I know you have viewers all across the nation here, so and probably around the world as well. I'm sure you do. So 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday mornings is when we do the broadcast, and it's a great service.
It would be so great. You know, please, everybody, you know, show Brother Jeff some love and his father-in-law and the church. Subscribe to that channel. And even if you, 11 o'clock, even if you can just jump in for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and show your love. And that would be, could you imagine? That would lift him up tremendously.
My father-in-law is still nervous with the broadcasting. I mean, you got to remember, guys, he's old school. He's used to standing in front of a crowd. So if you've never been in front of a camera like this, there's nobody here. I'm not talking to anybody. And as a minister, they're used to seeing people's reactions. He doesn't have that. So he's a little nervous with it. So he loves it when I do exactly what JD's doing. I put the comments on here and we take prayer requests and I speak about the requests. It would make him feel great. I'd really appreciate that. That's awesome, JD. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'll definitely be there at 11 o'clock Eastern. I'll make sure that I do a direct shout out video for the channel as well. But exactly, Brother Mark. Small gatherings is the best kind. Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Mark, it's good to see you.
Okay, I'll give Brother Mitchell. We'll go back to Sammy. Sister Sammy said that she subbed already, which I know Brother Mitchell subbed as well. He's got the link as well. So all kinds of links for you all. Jay Crapper in the house. Well, my beautiful daughter. Hello.
Hello, Haven. How are you, girl? I haven't seen you in years.
All right, baby girl. I'll call you when I'm off. You all right? You're cool? Okay, you're cool.
I'm cool.
Hold on. Say it again.
I'm cool.
You're cool.
Okay, I love you.
Love you too. I'll call you when I'm done. Love you later. That's my world right there.
That's awesome.
All right. Much love, everybody. Thank you for coming in. And anybody that watches this in the archive, absolutely. Please go ahead and subscribe to Brother Jeff's link here. I forgot to put the V in the title. I'll go ahead and fix that. But Scott County, Virginia gun owners. And this is his father-in-law's church, Darthula Baptist Church. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, please subscribe and 11 Eastern, 11 a.m. Eastern Sunday. Write it down on your calendar, even if you can just jump in for 5 to 10 minutes and just say hey and God bless, and or just stick around for the whole thing. You won't be disappointed. And I strongly urge you. He has the first one up, right?
He does. Yep. He's good. Yep.
If you have time after this stream, click on it and watch his first one and listen to that story about the son who went to war. True story too. Who became a POW, a prisoner of war, and how the story ends. If I can show you on film here, I probably can't, but I got goosebumps and the hair sticking up on my arms just thinking about that. What a beautiful, amazing story. And so fear no man, never fear death, get right with God, fight the good fight, and always stay locked and loaded. God bless.
God bless.